Hey Tech Math, here are the guided notes for 7.5. So quick review of what's going on right now. What are the three trig functions? Well, we've been talking about the first one in depth, so we should know sine. Soon we're going to be talking about the two others, which are cosine and tangent. Let's remind ourselves, what's the general formula for sine? Sine of an angle is equal to opposite over hypotenuse. Excuse my poor handwriting there. If sine is opposite over hypotenuse, cosine is going to allow us to work with adjacent. So instead of opposite over hypotenuse, we're going to have adjacent over hypotenuse. Many have heard the before, but I just want to remind you if you haven't. We remind ourselves of the trig ratio by remembering so, ka, toa. We get to toa later, but right now, sine reminds us that it's opposite over hypotenuse. Ka reminds us that cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, and then we'll toa later. But right now, let's focus on cosine. So if cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, we can write the cosine of angle A down. Well, which side is adjacent? You're going to have one side that's the hypotenuse, and the other side that's touching is going to be your adjacent side. So cosine of angle A, make sure you're writing what you're talking about, adjacent, that's my B in this case, over my hypotenuse, my longest side. Now if I change and I want to start talking about angle B, we'll double cross that one. Now my adjacent side is no longer B because it's opposite, it's not touching. So now I see this is still my hypotenuse. Which other side is touching angle B? It's going to be side A. So adjacent over hypotenuse. Why can you not write the cosine of angle C? Well, if I wrote the cosine of angle C, which side would be adjacent? Technically, both of them would be. So how do I know which side I'm talking about? I don't. So there's no specific adjacent side. And since we're not specific, it doesn't work. All right, let's see this with numbers now. What is the cosine of angle A? Well, the line touching that is not the hypotenuse is going to be 5.2. That's your adjacent side over your hypotenuse, which is 6. I can do the same thing with B. My adjacent side that's not the hypotenuse is 3, and I write it over 6. In the same way that we could find the angle when we knew the ratio, we can also do that here. So if I want to find angle A, I want to know what that's equal to, I can still just find the inverse cosine, or the arcsine. And all I do is I hit second cos, the same way I did with second sine, and then I'm going to plug in the number that it gives me. So 9.7. When I do that, it will give me a new value. In this case, I'm going to round to 20 degrees. So let's see that again. I'm going to hit second cosine, and then I'm going to plug in the number it gives me, and it's going to give out my angle measure, in this case 45 degrees. So if you want to remind yourself, this is where we're going to be using that inverse cosine of the ratio that we have. Alright, let's jump to the back. We just have a few more examples of using cosine. So again, if we want to use trig ratios, we want to find the measure of angle A. We can do this with cosine or with sine, doesn't matter. I'm going to set it up both ways. So let's use sine first because we're familiar with that. Sine of angle A is equal to opposite over hypotenuse. I can also set it up with cosine of angle A, but instead of using the opposite side, now I'm going to use the adjacent side, so 39 over 41.8. No matter which way I put it in, sine inverse of 15 over 41.8, or cosine inverse, I'm still going to get the same answer. I'm still going to get A is equal to about 21.03 degrees. What happens if I want to find specifically cosine of 30? Well, to find that ratio, all I have to do is plug it in my calculator. Same way we did it with sine. So this should not be new. Just because we've changed our ratio doesn't mean any of our practices or our procedures have changed. We're still, I don't know why I put a point at the end of that one. We're still just using our calculator and our understanding of sides to find these values. Alright, last one. Let's set this up with cosine again. If I want to find cosine of angle R, I need to do adjacent side over hypotenuse. 4.1 over 7.6. I can find this by doing the cosine inverse of 4.1 over 7.6. When I do that, I get about 57.35. So my angle in this case is about 57.35 degrees. And again, it's just my understanding of triangles right now. Alright, that's all there is. Go do your homework.